Before we get into the video, could everyone please subscribe to my Endless Diary Tales channel? Thank you so much. I took the college entrance exam with my husband Ethan, who had been a former educated youth. The day before the acceptance letters arrived, I saw with my own eyes as Ethan stuffed my documents into my sister Amanda's hands, teaching her how to impersonate me and take my place in college. I didn't cry or make a scene. Instead, I quietly bought a ticket to confront the truth at the prestigious university myself in my previous life. Even my parents lied to me, saying I failed the exam because they believed Amanda, the so-called golden child of the family, would bring them a better life. But this time I want to see whether they'll ruin my life first or if I'll make it to college and claim my rightful place. Grace, don't you still have a couple of steel coupons left? Hand them over to Amanda later. Also, that corduroy fabric you bought a couple of weeks ago is nice. Since you're not going to college anyway, why not make a dress for Amanda? She shouldn't look shabby when she heads off to school. Ethan's tone was as domineering as ever. Once just seeing him made me happy, but now when I meet his scheming eyes, all I feel is disgust. I put down the basket in my hands and turned away silently, only to bump into Amanda. She grabbed my hand, feigning concern. Sis, don't take this the wrong way, but you're just not meant for studying. You should stay in the village, raise pigs, and take care of mom and dad. After Ethan and I graduate, we'll take you to the city to see the world. I laughed coldly to myself. It was the same in my previous life. Even before the acceptance letters arrived in the village, Ethan and Amanda were already plotting against me, roping the entire family into their lies and claiming I had failed. Back then I believed them and thought I truly hadn't passed. I was devastated and handed over everything they wanted without hesitation. But after they settled in the city with jobs and a house, they only took my parents along, leaving me behind in a dilapidated house to do farm work. It wasn't until I mustered the courage to go to the city to confront them that I learned I hadn't failed at all. Amanda had stolen my identity to attend college. When I tried to resist, Ethan pushed me into the rushing river. As I recalled the suffocating sensation of water filling my lungs in my past life, my hands trembled involuntarily, clenching them tightly. I suppressed my hatred and looked at them calmly. Amanda, seeing my silence, shoved me. Grace, why aren't you saying anything? I'm more capable than you. Don't you think I deserve the best? Her so-called capabilities always came from stealing the fruits of my labor. Suppressing my anger, I glanced at the four of them with eager expressions and smirked faintly. The acceptance letters haven't even arrived yet. How do you already know I failed? Are you clairvoyant, or have you been tampering with things? Amanda frowned and looked at Ethan, who scowled. I prepared all your study materials. Don't I know your abilities? Stop entertaining unrealistic fantasies. With Ethan backing her, Amanda joined in mocking me relentlessly. Then, laughing and chatting, the two walked off to discuss their college plans. Watching their retreating figures, the hatred in my heart surged again. Fine, this time I'll see how you plan to steal my place in college. 3 days later, the village had only delivered Ethan's acceptance letter. The one Amanda desperately wanted never arrived. Grace, write me a letter of authorization. I'll go to the high school office in town to check on your acceptance letter, Ethan said after a movie screening in the village. He pulled me aside and handed me a cup of tea in an enamel mug. His tone was gentle, as if he were truly a dutiful husband. If it weren't for my past life, when I overheard the village head say that Ethan had used my authorization to transfer my identity to Amanda, or for the way he ignored my cries for help as I drowned in the river, I might still trust him and foolishly cooperate. Taking a deep breath, I clenched my fists, reminding myself not to fall for his sweet words again. Ethan, didn't you say I wasn't good enough, that I couldn't possibly pass? Then of course I don't have an acceptance letter. Before Ethan could respond, Amanda, munching on sunflower seeds in the yard, shouted mockingly. What's the point of confessing it? She's not going anywhere. Are you still mad that mom and dad said you didn't pass the exam? Ethan asked, his eyes darting around as if something had just occurred to him. Suddenly he grabbed my hand. Grace, why are you so petty? Mom and dad weren't wrong, you know. Amanda really is smarter and more capable than you. Don't overthink it. I genuinely want to take you back to the city and have you go to college. If you don't come to the city, it'll be lonely for me to live alone. Plus, we're legally married. We should get closer so we can start having kids sooner. Having kids? I let out a cold laugh. Since our wedding night, Ethan hadn't shared a bed with me again. First, he claimed the food wasn't good, so he didn't have the energy for intimacy. Later, when his relatives finally told me the truth, I learned he had married me begrudgingly because of that incident. He avoided me because he couldn't stand being too close. In my past life, I cried for 3 days over this. Eventually, at Amanda's urging, I swallowed my pride and tried to win Ethan over with kindness and submission. I thought that as long as I gave everything I had, he'd come around. But in the end, they schemed against me, leaving me with nothing. Be a good wife, Ethan said, coaxing me. Just write me the authorization letter, and I'll stay home tonight instead of going back to the educated youth residence. I'll keep you company. I felt a wave of nausea and shoved his hand away, feigning defeat. I sighed deeply. You know what? Amanda's right. I'm not cut out for studying. Just leave my acceptance letter alone. Ethan, clearly frustrated, kicked the door frame and warned, Grace, enough is enough. Stop acting out and making me miserable. That incident hasn't blown over yet. Without another glance at me, he turned and walked out into the yard. Moments later, I heard Amanda's voice crying loudly. Ethan, what's going on? Didn't you say everything was foolproof? Why haven't I gotten my acceptance letter yet? Hurry up and take me to the city to check. I have to find it. I have to go to the city with you. Listening to the commotion outside, I lowered my eyes and smirked. They didn't know that even if they went to town, they wouldn't find my acceptance letter. The next day, I was out in the fields harvesting wheat when I looked up and saw Ethan and Amanda running toward me, panting as though they had rushed back. Grace, where's that little pouch Mom gave you when you were younger? Hurry up and find it. I want to copy the embroidery pattern on it, Amanda said, looking flustered. I remember you kept it in the wardrobe. Hand me the key and I'll take Amanda to get it, Ethan added, holding out his hand toward me. His sleeve had a bit of dried wheat straw stuck to it, the same kind of straw tangled in Amanda's hair. It didn't take much to figure out what they'd been up to in the wheat fields. Just like in my past life, a wave of disgust turned in my stomach. Noticing my gaze, Amanda quickly smoothed her hair and shamelessly clung to Ethan's arm. She adjusted his sleeve with exaggerated tenderness and urged me, Grace, hurry up. I need it now. I curled my lips into a faint smile and shook my head. Sorry, it's gone. I lost it. The pouch was something everyone in the village knew about. It had been with me since the village had brought me home as a baby, embroidered with a pie and Suzhou-style stitching, a clue to my true origins. In my past life, I had no idea the pouch could help me find my birth family. When Amanda casually said she wanted to see the embroidery, I handed it over without hesitation. But now there was no way I'd give it to them. I knew why Amanda was so eager. She thought I hadn't gotten into college and wanted to use the pouch to impersonate me, claim my birthright in the city, and secure a good life with Ethan. I lost it, Amanda stammered, her expression twisting with frustration. She bit her lip, her eyes darting nervously before she suddenly burst into tears and turned to Ethan. Ethan, she wailed, clinging to him as if she'd been gravely wronged. Her sobs were dramatic, calculated. I can't believe this is happening. That pouch is so important, and now it's just gone. What am I supposed to do? You promised me, Ethan. You said there wouldn't be any problems. Ethan frowned, clearly irritated. Grace, he snapped, are you sure it's lost? Stop lying and wasting our time. You'd better think carefully about where you put it. I met his gaze evenly, my expression calm, though my heart burned with anger. I told you already it's gone. Believe it or don't, it's your choice, but don't act like this is my fault. Amanda's sobs grew louder, and she tightened her grip on Ethan's arm. What are we going to do now, Ethan? That pouch was our only chance. You have to do something. Ethan sighed, rubbing his temples as if the weight of the world rested solely on his shoulders. Fine, he muttered. We'll think of something else. Stop crying, Amanda. I watched their pathetic performance with cold amusement. It was just like before. Every moment of desperation, every tear shed, all meticulously calculated to manipulate and deceive. But this time I wasn't going to play along. Amanda wiped her eyes, sniffling as she leaned into Ethan. You'll figure it out, right? I can't let this opportunity slip away. Ethan patted her shoulder reassuringly, glancing back at me with a dark expression. "Grace," he said, his tone sharp, "you'd better not regret this. If anything happens because of your carelessness, you'll be the one to blame." I simply smiled faintly, saying nothing. Let them believe what they wanted. I knew exactly what I was doing. As they turned to leave, their heads close together in whispered conversation, I felt a sense of satisfaction wash over me. This time they wouldn't steal what was mine. This time I would protect what mattered most. Let them scramble, let them scheme. I was done playing the victim. I turned back to my work in the field, the rhythmic sound of the sickle cutting through the wheat stealing my thoughts. The pouch wasn't lost. It was hidden somewhere they'd never find it. And as for my acceptance letter, well, they'd find out soon enough that their carefully laid plans were destined to fail. This time I wouldn't just survive their betrayal. I'd make sure they paid for every single moment of pain they caused me. I saw Amanda, tears streaming down her face, look over at Ethan as she clutched her head dramatically. Grace must have noticed the straw in our hair and got the wrong idea. She's always making things difficult for me on purpose. She's been like this ever since we were kids. I know I'm not Mom and Dad's real child, so it's normal for her not to like me, but she can't treat me like this. Amanda cried harder, covering her face as she turned and ran toward the house. Ethan sighed heavily, looking exasperated. He lifted his foot as if about to chase after her but then turned back to glare at me. "Grace, what's wrong with you? Amanda is your sister. Why do you always pick on her? It's just a pouch. Why couldn't you just give it to her? If you keep acting so mean, don't blame me if..." I interrupted him with a cold smile. "You're going to use that old incident to force me into a divorce, right? Fine, let's divorce." In my previous life, Ethan had done just that, used the incident as leverage to coerce me into taking care of Amanda. At the time, I was too scared of the village gossip and too unsure of how to explain myself, so I gave in again and again. But what did it lead to? They exploited my compromises, scheming against me at every turn. This time, I wouldn't wait for him to bring it up. I wouldn't stay in this marriage no matter what. Ethan was clearly stunned by my sudden declaration. He froze for a long moment, then recovered. "Enough to scold me? Grace, look at yourself. What have you become? Bullying your sister and casually talking about divorce? Why can't you be more kind? If you were even half as kind as Amanda, you wouldn't have failed your college entrance exams." I let out a cold laugh. "Oh, so kindness gets you into college now? Then where's Amanda's acceptance letter? Why don't you show it to me?" Ethan's jaw tightened, his teeth grinding in frustration. He shot me a venomous glare, but I ignored him and returned to my work, bending down to continue cutting the wheat. He stood there for a while, staring at me with a mix of disbelief and anger, before finally saying, "Grace, I'm so disappointed in you. I won't come home again before I leave for college in Jinchang. I'll be staying at the educated youth residence. Whenever you decide to behave and want to live peacefully with me, you can come find me." In my past life, he had destroyed me. In this life, what right did he have to expect me to beg for him? After Ethan returned to the residence, Amanda wasted no time crying to our parents. Early the next morning, she was already accusing me of being petty and difficult. By the evening, the moment I stepped through the door, my parents slammed their chopsticks and bowls onto the table and started scolding me. "Grace, we worked so hard to raise you, and this is how you repay us? Bullying Amanda like that? Just wait. If you keep this up, karma will come for you." They claimed to have raised me with great effort, but they had never truly struggled for my sake. When the village leader had arranged for them to adopt me, they received monthly rations of grain and meat as compensation. Even my and Amanda's school fees were covered by the village. Listening to their accusations, I leaned casually against the door frame and sneered. "If karma is coming, it'll start with those who harbor selfish intentions, don't you think?" They hurled a few more curses my way before retreating to their room. Amanda, however, didn't follow them. Instead, she stormed up to me, her face twisted in anger. "Grace," she spat, her voice low and venomous, "your sharp tongue won't save you. They all love me, and they all want me to have a better life." Her expression darkened further, a hint of malice creeping into her tone. "I'll let you in on a little secret. I'm reborn in this life. I'm not just going to steal your man. I'm going to the city, claiming my place as a wealthy eyes and living the life you'll never have. Her words froze me. Amanda had also been reborn just like me and had returned to the 1960s. In our previous life, she had taken my place in college, but her poor foundation meant she consistently ranked at the bottom of her class, failing so often that she was nearly expelled. The only reason she managed to survive in the city was by assuming my identity and relying on my biological parents' support. Now in this life, Amanda was clearly determined to repeat her schemes, but this time she was more confident, knowing what lay ahead. She thought she could take everything from me again. My family, my opportunities, my life. But she didn't know one crucial fact. This time I wasn't the same Grace she had outwitted before. I clenched my fists tightly, my nails digging into my palms to steady my swirling emotions. Her admission only solidified my resolve. In our previous life, I had been too naive, too trusting. I had believed that by giving in and showing kindness, I could win back some semblance of peace. But all it had done was embolden her and Ethan to strip away everything I had worked for. Good luck with that, I said coldly, my voice steady despite the storm raging within me. I refused to let her see any sign of weakness. But let me give you a little piece of advice, Amanda. Ambition without capability is just a fantasy. Let's see how far you can go this time. Amanda's smug expression faltered for a moment, but she quickly recovered, sneering at me. We'll see, Grace. We'll see who wins in the end. I watched her walk away, her back straight with false confidence. My heart burned with a mix of anger and determination. This time things would be different. This time I wouldn't let her steal my life. The pouch, the acceptance letter, my identity. Everything she coveted would remain firmly in my grasp. If Amanda thought she could rewrite the same story and come out on top again, she was sorely mistaken. This was my life, and I wasn't going to let anyone take it from me. As I stood there, the wheat field swaying gently in the breeze around me, I vowed to myself that this life would not follow the same path. Amanda and Ethan could plot and scheme all they wanted, but this time I would be ready. I would take back everything that was rightfully mine, and I would watch them fall just as they had made me fall before. Ethan wanted to find my biological parents ahead of time, secure a good job without going to college, and pave his way to a better life. But what Ethan didn't know was that I had also been reborn. My rebirth had brought me back to the day of college application submissions, and before Ethan and Amanda could fully execute their plans against me, I had already prepared my countermeasures. While Amanda plotted to bypass me and head to the city, I was quietly preparing for my divorce from Ethan and my return to the city. However, this time before going back, I had to find John Yerger. In my previous life, after discovering my identity had been stolen, I traveled thousands of miles to confront Ethan and Amanda in the city. But to prevent me from succeeding, they hired human traffickers to kidnap me. John Yerger had stood up for me on the train and escorted me to safety. I would never forget the way he looked at me before I went to confront Ethan. His gaze held a question I couldn't fully understand. If you divorce him, would you give me a chance? In our era, divorced women carried a heavy stigma. In my previous life, I hadn't answered him. Later, I died drowning in the river, and as my soul hovered above the scene, I saw him sacrifice himself. Is life in the line of duty? This time, I wasn't only determined to change the outcome of Amanda's schemes. I also wanted him to have a better life. When I sent the pouch and identity documents to my biological parents, I also arranged for someone to send a telegram to inquire about John Yerger. The village head told me John was a team leader at a research institute, which meant it wouldn't be easy to reach him. However, I soon received a reply when the village leader summoned me to read the telegram. I overheard the village broadcaster announce that Ethan and Amanda had already intercepted it. My face instantly darkened. Ethan is your husband, the village leader said casually. He must be concerned about you. Who sent you that telegram? Can't he read it? I didn't bother to explain and immediately rushed to the meeting hall of the team headquarters. When I arrived, I saw Ethan and Amanda standing close together, holding the telegram. Ethan's expression was cold and heavy as he demanded, "Grace, what's the meaning of this telegram?" Ignoring his question, I reached out and said, "Hand me my telegram." Ethan slammed his hand on the table, his eyes wide with fury. "Answer my question first. Why are you secretly sending telegrams to people outside? Are you being unfaithful? Are you trying to humiliate me?" His accusation made me laugh bitterly, but before I could say anything, Amanda sighed theatrically. She began circling me, her gaze sweeping me from head to toe. "Grace," she said with a mocking tone, "how could I forget? You've always been this way, indecent, getting too close to all the men in the village. You're nothing but shameless." Her words were like venom, and Ethan's contemptuous sneer only added fuel to the fire. "That's right," he said. "Before you married me, you weren't even clean. I regret so much marrying a woman like you just because of that incident." He was referring to our wedding night, weaponizing it to humiliate me. The truth was, there had been no evidence on our wedding night because I had torn my body saving him when he fell off a horse. He had known this, but now he twisted the facts to further disgrace me in front of Amanda. A surge of fury overwhelmed me, burning through my chest like a wildfire. The hatred from my previous life merged with the searing rage of the present, consuming me entirely. Without thinking, I shoved Amanda aside, snatched the telegram from Ethan's hand, and trembled with anger. "Ethan," I hissed, "try slandering me one more time and see what happens." Ethan stood frozen, shocked by my sudden fury. He must have assumed I was still the same weak, submissive woman he could manipulate. My reaction caught him completely off guard. It was Amanda who snapped him out of his daze by patting his arm. He frowned, irritated. "What's wrong with you? We're married. What's the point of throwing a tantrum?" I laughed coldly, clutching the telegram tightly in my hand. "Married? Ethan, you've already ruined one life. You think I'll let you ruin it again? You've always been dirty, and I accepted that," Ethan said, his voice heavy with disdain. "I can let this telegram incident go, but you must give that pouch to Amanda. Otherwise, I'll expose that incident. Let's see how you'll survive then." Even now, Ethan was trying to manipulate me, demanding I hand over the pouch that could prove my identity so Amanda could impersonate me and return to the city in my place. I forced down the anger boiling within me and replied coldly, enunciating each word clearly. "Why should I give my belongings to Amanda? I've already decided I won't concern myself with your affairs anymore." Ethan's face darkened, and after a moment of silence he sneered mockingly. "You're saying this to provoke me, aren't you? You're always making a scene. I'm about to leave for college in the city. Can't you just cooperate for once? Do you really want to push me to the point where I use that incident to divorce you? Grace, don't say we didn't warn you. For a rural woman like you, divorce with that kind of stain on your reputation will make it impossible to hold your head high here." I met his glare with a cold laugh. "The one who won't be able to hold their head high won't be me, Ethan. Let's divorce." Without waiting for a response, I turned and walked out of the room, clutching the crumpled telegram in my hand. Behind me, I heard Amanda's voice laced with worry. "We haven't gotten her acceptance letter yet, nor her identification keepsake. It's reckless to divorce now. Maybe you should go coax her." Ethan's dismissive tone followed. "Coax her? She doesn't dare divorce me. Give it 3 days, she'll come crawling back like a dog." I had thought their schemes would be limited to using the old incident against me, claiming I wasn't qualified for college. I hadn't expected them to stoop so low as to smear my reputation with baseless accusations of immorality. In this era, such slander could destroy a woman's life, especially when combined with that incident from years ago. They succeeded. I would truly have no way to survive. I had never harmed them, but their cruelty knew no bounds. This time I had no reason to show mercy. On my way back, I examined the telegram they had nearly destroyed. It was from my former physics teacher, now a professor at Qingbei University. He was inviting me to transfer into his pharmacy program, a field I had dreamed of pursuing in my previous life. Back then, Ethan had convinced me with a single line. "We're married, we shouldn't live apart." I had foolishly changed my application to attend a less prestigious university in the same city as him, only to end up serving as a stepping stone for him and Amanda. This time I wouldn't sacrifice my dreams for a man like Ethan. The next day, after sending my reply telegram, I heard villagers gossiping about a joyful occasion at my house. Curious, I returned home and found Amanda clinging to my mother's arm, acting coy. Ethan's gaze followed Amanda at first, but as soon as I entered, his eyes locked onto me. His reaction didn't go unnoticed by Amanda, whose smile faltered as she glared at me, her tone turning smug. It turns out my biological parents are prominent figures in the city. They called the local town leaders and said they'll be coming here to pick me up in 2 days. I lowered my eyes, hiding the flicker of amusement. Amanda's knowledge of her past life had indeed allowed her to contact my biological parents. I wasn't surprised. I had anticipated this. My biological parents would also bring an investigation team from the city, and everything Amanda and Ethan had done would come to light. To ensure I understood, Amanda shoved Ethan toward me. "Go tell her," she whispered loudly, her voice dripping with mockery. "Convince her to hand over the pouch. It's her keepsake after all." Ethan grabbed my arm and pulled me aside, his tone commanding. "Grace, give the pouch to Amanda as a gift. When her mood improves, she'll help you keep this quiet and take you to the city with us." I looked him in the eye and said calmly, "Ethan, I'm not going to the city with you." His face darkened like a brewing storm, and his voice turned icy. "Grace, don't push me too far. Hand over the pouch now." I smiled faintly. "The pouch is a keepsake left by my biological parents. I won't give it to anyone. If Amanda wants one, she can ask her biological parents to make her one." Ethan's anger boiled over and he shouted, "Grace, you're impossible. Listen carefully. Amanda's biological parents are also investigating what happened during the famine years. When the truth comes out, we won't protect you." I stared back at him, my voice steady and firm. "Who needs your protection?" I wanted to expose their lies immediately, but I remembered the plan I had carefully prepared and forced myself to suppress the anger boiling inside me. Lowering my head, I took a step back to avoid Ethan's touch. However, my retreat only made Ethan think I was afraid. He exchanged a glance with Amanda, his eyes filled with smug satisfaction. "It's good you finally understand fear," he said coldly. "The town leader mentioned that tomorrow, Comrade XE from the research unit will be coming. He's in charge of investigating that matter. You'd better hand over the pouch before he talks to us." "Comrade XE?" My chest tightened as I stared at Ethan in shock. John Yerger had arrived in our village 7 years earlier than in my previous life. My reaction seemed to please Ethan, and he tilted his head toward Amanda with a triumphant smirk. "See? I told you she's easy to control. Amanda, get a good night's sleep tonight. After tomorrow you'll officially be wealthy. You can deal with anyone in the village who's ever crossed you however you like." The two of them gleefully plotted their next moves, even pulling neighbors into their little celebration to share the good news. I tuned out their chatter and returned to my room. Opening a drawer, I retrieved a document related to that incident from years ago. Late that night, as I got up to use the bathroom, I overheard voices coming from the nearby woods. Curious, I crept closer and peeked around the corner of the house. Under the dim moonlight, I saw Ethan and Amanda holding each other, whispering intimately. "Are you sure this won't backfire?" Ethan asked nervously. Amanda chuckled softly, her voice dripping with confidence. "Don't worry so much, she's dumb and clueless. There's no way she'll figure out our plan." My heart sank as I clenched my fists tightly. "You won't abandon me for some other man, will you?" Ethan suddenly asked, his voice tinged with insecurity. Amanda's gaze turned dreamy, and she smiled. "Of course not. You're the one I love most." I turned away, my lips curling into a cold smile. If they loved each other so much, then this time I'd let them have each other for good. The next morning, the village loudspeaker announced the arrival of the leaders. The entire village dropped their farm tools and changed into their finest clothes, the ones they only wore during the new year. After lunch, everyone gathered at the village head's house, chattering eagerly about the leaders' preferences, hoping to win their favor and secure an opportunity for their families. While everyone else was preoccupied, I was herding sheep near the village entrance when I first saw John Yerger. He wore a crisp white shirt with rolled-up sleeves, paired with black dress pants. His face was calm and expressionless, but his deep eyes gleamed with a sharp, intimidating light. The village girls, noticing his arrival, rushed forward, each vying for his attention with shy glances and sweet smiles. Yet his piercing gaze sent them scurrying away, their confidence crumbling under the weight of his presence. I stood at the back, blocked by the crowd, unable to get close to him. I assumed that our paths wouldn't intersect so soon in this life, but that afternoon, after returning the sheep to their pen, I turned around and found myself face to face with John Yerger by the sparkling river. He stood tall and straight, his white shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal sun-kissed skin that matched my memories exactly. Our eyes met, his gaze deep and unreadable, like a mist lifting to reveal clarity beneath. "Comrade Grace," he said abruptly, "do you want to divorce Ethan?" Legitimately, his question caught me off guard, but I didn't hesitate. "Of course I do." "Then let's work together," John said, a faint smile curving his lips. His previously cold demeanor softened with a touch of warmth, making him look exceptionally handsome. I nodded, mirroring his smile. John explained that as soon as he received the telegram I'd sent inquiring about him, his unit had launched an investigation into me with remarkable speed. He already knew my true identity. His visit to the village wasn't just for official business. It was also to help me reunite with my biological parents. Knowing that Amanda had also been reborn, I realized I tossed and turned, worrying that Amanda might meet my biological parents before I could. She had memories of her past life, including her interactions with them, and knew their preferences in an era where DNA testing was still underdeveloped. I couldn't be certain she wouldn't gain the upper hand during the reunion. But with John Yerger's help, the situation was entirely different. John wasn't just a rising star in the research field. His parents were highly respected leaders. Most importantly, his family had been close friends with mine for generations. His words carried far more weight than anything Amanda could say. "You don't want to reveal your identity right away?" John asked, sounding a little surprised. "There are still some debts I need to settle," I replied, raising an eyebrow. "Before going public, I'll show you something interesting." John chuckled softly, the coldness in his deep gaze melting into a warmth that was almost indulgent. The moment I had overheard Ethan and Amanda conspiring in the woods, I knew exactly what they were planning. In my previous life, I had fallen into their trap, ruining my reputation and losing everything. But this time I would strike back. I also wanted my biological parents to see Amanda for who she truly was. By the time the sun began to set, I hadn't returned home, and my mother was already crying at the village entrance. Gossip-loving aunts joined her, organizing a search party for me. Someone casually mentioned seeing me with the village loafer, Zach Ironwood, sneaking into the haystack. My mother's reaction was instant and explosive. "That shameless girl. She's married. How could she behave so indecently with another man?" she screamed, her face twisted in rage. When villagers suggested informing Ethan, she immediately directed my father to fetch him while leading a crowd of villagers, men, women, and children, toward the haystack. Along the way, the villagers gossiped loudly. "Grace just can't settle down, can she? Ethan barely got into college, and she's already causing trouble. Looks like they're done for. Ethan should just marry Amanda instead. She's so much more proper than Grace." Another chimed in. My mother covered her mouth with a false smile and said, "I'm just worried about how Grace will live after this. With her reputation ruined, who would marry her now?" The village head, puffing on his pipe, added sternly, "Improper behavior is a crime. If she's caught, she'll be punished for it." He nodded toward the haystack and muttered in disappointment, "If they're still in there, they're acting no better than animals." My mother blew her nose dramatically, then dropped to the ground, kicking and screaming. "That disgraceful wretch. She's ruined our family's name. Grace, why don't you just die already?" she shrieked as the villagers joined in cursing me. John and I walked up calmly. "Mother," I said lightly, "what are you yelling about? How exactly have I brought shame to the family?" My innocent tone made her face contort into something even uglier than crying. The villagers froze, stunned. They had come along expecting to catch me in the act, but here I was, perfectly fine and standing right in front of them. The commotion behind the haystack, however, continued. "Shouldn't you be in the haystack?" my mother stammered, her voice sharp with panic. "Then who's back there?" I shrugged casually. "I wouldn't know. Why don't we take a look?" The village head accepted my suggestion and led the crowd toward the haystack. What they found turned my mother's face deathly pale. My father, arriving just in time, nearly collapsed, his legs trembling as he clung to her for support. The previously carefree couple behind the haystack froze in terror as the crowd descended upon them, the glow of flames illuminating their mortified faces. Amanda was curled up in Ethan's arms, burying her face in his chest, while Ethan's gaze darted between me and John Yerger, panic and shame etched all over his face. And then there were my biological parents. Ethan stammered, unable to form a coherent response. It was the village head who finally stepped forward, glaring at Ethan and Amanda. What do you think you're doing here? The two of them struggled to answer, but my mother, ever quick on her feet, suddenly stood up, picked up their scattered clothes from the ground, and threw them over Amanda to cover her. She turned to Amanda with a meaningful look and said, "Amanda, you and Ethan are dating, right? You weren't just fooling around, were you?" Amanda trembled but nodded hesitantly. "Yes, we're dating." They must have thought this would appease the village head, but it only incited more outrage. Everyone in the village knew Ethan and I had already held a wedding ceremony. If Amanda claimed to be dating Ethan, what did that make me? When the village head asked this question, my mother and Ethan exchanged a quick glance. Ethan tightened his hold around Amanda protectively and turned to me. "Grace, we only held a ceremony in the village. We never filed a marriage report or got an official certificate, so we're not legally married. Now that I'm with Amanda, you and I are done. From now on, we can each marry someone else, and it won't matter." In front of the entire village, Ethan disavowed our relationship. Without a marriage certificate and with the village head as a witness, we were officially strangers. This time, not only had I severed my ties with Ethan, but I had also ensured that he and Amanda publicly humiliated themselves. "Grace, let us take care of them for you," my biological mother said angrily when she learned of Ethan's actions. Her fury was barely contained, and she looked ready to confront them on the spot. I smiled and shook my head. "Mom, don't act yet. Help me deliver this document first." I handed her a folder, which she glanced at briefly before turning to John Yerger for confirmation. John raised an eyebrow, a slight smile playing on his lips. "Listen to Grace. This will deliver a much heavier blow. In my previous life, Amanda and Ethan had ruined my future. In this life, the second gift I prepared for them wouldn't be so easily dismissed." The very next day, likely to avoid the villagers' scorn, Ethan and Amanda took their referral letters and rushed to get their marriage certificate. In my past life, when Han was preparing to move to the city, I had suggested getting an official marriage certificate, but he refused, citing that college students weren't allowed to marry. This time, eager to have Amanda take my place and join the city as the daughter-in-law of a wealthy family, he wasted no time. With their certificate in hand, they purchased candies and led a group of villagers to my biological parents' home. Amanda knelt before my mother, crying as she poured out her fabricated hardships in the village. She even claimed she had dreamed of living a happy life with my mother watching. My mother's furrowed brow told me that Amanda was exploiting her memories from our previous life to tug at my mother's emotions. But instead of responding, my mother pulled my father aside for a private conversation. Amanda and Ethan, misinterpreting this as a positive sign, grew more confident. Ethan turned to me with a smug expression. "Grace, you must be so jealous of Amanda right now. Some people are just born lucky. Amanda is destined to be a wealthy heiress while you'll stay in the village, herding sheep and feeding pigs, probably marrying a deadbeat." The villagers, who had already decided Amanda was the real daughter of the leadership family, joined in the mockery. Ethan's words sparked laughter, and I became the subject of their ridicule. To them, I was just a foolish, jealous girl, while Amanda was the talented and elegant daughter of privilege. "Grace," Amanda whispered with a sneer, leaning close to my ear, "doesn't this make you want to cry? This is just the beginning." Amanda's confidence was soaring as if she had already won. But just then my parents returned, standing behind me. They spoke in unison. "Grace, our precious daughter." Their words silenced the crowd. The villagers turned their attention to my parents, confusion and shock written all over their faces. It wasn't until my father asked the village head for my records that the full impact of the situation hit them. The smug smiles on Amanda and Ethan's faces vanished instantly. The pride and satisfaction they had just displayed turned into expressions of sheer panic. Before they could sputter out any excuses, my parents were already taking control of the situation, leaving Amanda and Ethan with nothing more to say. My parents had already informed the village head that they would be transferring my household registration and restoring my original surname. In 3 days, I would leave with them to return to the city. The matter of reuniting with my biological parents had finally come to a close. As I stood there, the bitterness I had harbored for years seemed to melt away. I looked at Amanda and Ethan, their faces ashen with despair, and then at John Yerger, who had meticulously arranged everything for me. I couldn't help but feel relieved that I had reached out to John earlier in this life. It had made everything so much easier. Later, while I was at the village head's office completing the necessary paperwork, Ethan barged in. He and Amanda were now legally married, yet he still sought to disrupt my life. I told the village head I didn't want to see him, but Ethan ignored the warning, storming in with a menacing glare. "Grace," he sneered, "you're heartless. Don't think this means you'll live happily ever after with your biological parents. I still hold that incident over your head. If you don't want your parents punished, have them recognize Amanda as their goddaughter and arrange jobs for us. Otherwise, your whole family will suffer." He was about to continue when John Joer entered with a slight nod to me. John said nothing but motioned to his colleague, who promptly escorted Ethan out. "What do you want to do next?" John asked me calmly. I knew both he and my parents were restraining themselves. They had wanted to deal with Ethan harshly from the start, but I had my own plans for revenge. "Tomorrow," I replied, "there will be good news." In my previous life, before Ethan pushed me into the water, he had let slip many details during his threats. First, when I was newly reborn, I didn't remember all of them, but as he repeatedly tried to blackmail me, fragments resurfaced. I recalled him mentioning that not only was Amanda's identity fabricated, but his college acceptance letter was also forged. In my past life, Ethan had managed to use a fake acceptance letter to attend college, all thanks to Amanda pleading with my biological parents for support. This time, without my parents' influence, I wanted to see how far they could go. The next day, as Ethan and Amanda arrived to threaten me again, officials from the town's education bureau appeared, holding the evidence I had submitted. They confronted Ethan about his forged acceptance letter. "Ethan, your and Amanda's exam scores were at the bottom of the town's rankings," the officials stated coldly. "You were never qualified to attend college." In my previous life, Ethan had basked in the admiration of the educated youth, his fake status as a university student earning him respect and envy. But in this life, after being exposed by the Education Bureau, the same people who once idolized him now looked at him with disdain. The officials managing the educated youth were even planning to penalize him. Ethan fell to his knees outside the educated youth residence, crying and begging the officials to spare him. He was utterly humiliated. "John," I said, turning to him with a sly smile, "would you like to see what happens when a husband and wife betray each other in a crisis?" John's lips curled slightly. "I'd love to." I wanted to see Ethan and Amanda's relationship crumble completely. Ethan had always believed Amanda loved him unconditionally, willing to sacrifice everything for him. In my past life, he had even mocked me, saying, "Amanda loves me so much she'd give her life for me. Unlike you, who always holds something back." But now, without the prestige of being a university student, would Amanda still want him? John, ever shrewd, orchestrated a meeting between Amanda and a promising researcher from the city to use Ethan's fake acceptance letter as leverage against them. But Amanda's change of heart happened far faster than I had anticipated. Using her memories from her past life, she recognized the researcher's bright future and quickly decided to betray Ethan. Outside the educated youth residence, Amanda sobbed dramatically as she pushed Ethan away. "You're useless," she spat. "You can't give me a good life. Let's get divorced. I don't want to be dragged down by a failure like you." That single word, failure, ignited Ethan's fury. He grabbed Amanda's arm, and the two of them began fighting right there in the open. Amanda, however, was determined to rid herself of Ethan entirely. Their shouts and scuffle drew the attention of everyone nearby, and the once proud couple became the village's laughingstock. Watching their relationship disintegrate was more satisfying than I had imagined. Ethan and Amanda's fight escalated to such brutality that Ethan ended up breaking one of his legs, while Amanda was left bleeding. With the village doctor away in the city for training, only the veterinarian was available to examine them. The diagnosis: Amanda was pregnant, and Ethan's left knee was shattered, leaving him permanently disabled. The two were now bound together, whether they liked it or not. It was said that when the village told them they couldn't divorce, Amanda cried until her eyes were swollen. "I still have my whole life ahead of me. How can I stay tied to a?" She wailed. Ethan, on the other hand, began to regret his decisions. I miss Grace. I really miss Grace, he admitted. In my previous life, Ethan had made me realize just before my death that his love was the cheapest thing in the world, so when I heard he was filled with regret, I felt nothing at all. But he wasn't willing to let go and began pestering my parents to meet with me. My biological father, enraged, kicked him hard enough to send him sprawling at John's feet. At that exact moment, John was asking me, "Grace, would you like to get engaged to me now and marry after graduation?" I had already developed feelings for John based on my memories from my past life. Now that I had achieved my revenge, I saw no reason to refuse. Just as I was about to nod, Ethan interrupted with a pitiful wail. "Grace, don't believe him. He's lying to you. You're second-hand goods. How could he truly love you? He's only after your parents' status and influence. He's no better than me." I lowered my gaze, meeting Ethan's furious expression with indifference. His outburst shifted to a look of grievance, but his accusations held no ground. John had stood by me and helped me even before he knew about my true identity. Ethan, on the other hand, had schemed against me from the moment he arrived in the village, conspiring with Amanda to convince me I hadn't been accepted into college. Ethan, trembling, tried to argue. "You didn't pass the college entrance exam. You didn't." But as the words left his mouth, the village had arrived with a group of villagers beaming with joy. "Grace, your acceptance letter has arrived. Congratulations. You've been admitted to Qingbei University. You're the pride of our village, a true phoenix rising from the mountains." Everyone began congratulating me, and my parents beamed with pride. Among the cheering crowd, only Ethan remained frozen, tugging at my sleeve, his face twisted with anger. "We agreed to go to Sioux University together when we filled out our applications. Why did you switch to Qingbei? You planned to leave me behind from the start. You wanted to abandon me all along. How could you, Grace?" John calmly cried, pulling Ethan's hand away and clasping mine. "It's time for us to head to town and finalize your paperwork, Grace. Ethan, you're a married man now. Don't touch Grace again, or I'll charge you with harassment." Ethan pressed his lips together, fear flashing in his eyes as he withdrew without looking back. I got into the green Jeep with John and my biological parents. After completing the necessary paperwork to change my household registration, we stopped at the town's market, where I purchased gifts for the village's educated youth to thank them for their help. While Amanda and her parents had treated me poorly, the village head and others had supported me, making my plans after rebirth so much smoother. It felt right to express my gratitude before leaving. Once everything was arranged, I prepared to depart. Unexpectedly, Amanda blocked our car, sobbing as she looked at my parents. "Mom, Dad, I've been reborn. In my past life, I was your biological daughter. You cared for me so much. Please don't abandon me again," she cried desperately. I frowned, astonished that Amanda had openly mentioned her rebirth to my parents. "Mom, Dad, I know all your preferences. I remember our courtyard home in Byong. You planted a maple tree there just for me. Every night I think about our past life together. Please don't leave me behind," she pleaded. My biological mother, a kind and soft-hearted woman, hesitated, and for a moment I worried she might waver. But just as I was about to intervene, my mother spoke coldly. "Your blood type doesn't match either mine or my husband's. Even in a past life, you couldn't have been our daughter unless you impersonated my daughter and stole her identity." Her voice was icy as she finished. "If that's the case in this life, we won't acknowledge you as our daughter," my mother stated coldly. "Not only that, but I'm going to charge you with identity theft." When my mother's final words landed, Amanda's face turned deathly pale. She looked as though she had seen a ghost. Stumbling to her feet, she fled in the direction of the village, her steps unsteady and desperate. Watching her reaction, I suddenly understood why Amanda had died in my previous life. Blood types don't lie. Once my biological parents discovered her mismatched blood type, they would have realized she had been impersonating me. That revelation must have led to her downfall. This time I had changed my fate. Even with the memories from her past life, Amanda could. No longer stealing my identity, after returning to Beijing with my parents, I immediately registered for college without Ethan and Amanda interfering. Everything in my life unfolded smoothly in my first year. I successfully earned a commendation from the university at the end of the semester. John Yerger came to visit me from his research unit. He looked a little somber. "Grace, Ethan and Amanda have come to Beeching too," he said. He explained that after we left the village, he had arranged for someone to keep an eye on the two of them, worried they might try to harm me. After all, Amanda, with her memories of the past, had certain advantages. What John didn't know was that I too had been reborn, and the matter he feared wasn't nearly as dire as he imagined. The final act of revenge I had planned for Ethan and Amanda revolved around this very matter. John, ever protective, stayed by my side during the university's end-of-term awards ceremony. Because of my outstanding performance, I was awarded the 3 Good Student Medal. As I walked onto the stage to receive my award, the heavy doors at the back of the hall swung open, and 2 familiar figures entered. It had been months since I'd last seen them, but they looked as if they had aged 5 or 6 years. Amanda especially was gaunt and ghostly pale. She had suffered a miscarriage, and without proper nutrition, she now resembled a shadow of her former self. Yet when she saw me, her thin lips twisted into a grotesque grin. She shoved Ethan forward, and he hobbled toward me, his crippled leg dragging behind him. His brow arched mockingly as he sneered. "Grace, have you forgotten what you did all those years ago?" I said nothing, merely looking at him. He exchanged a glance with Amanda and continued loudly. "During the 3-year natural disaster, the village had no food at all. To get supplies, you violated the rules. Amanda and I are witnesses. We can testify that you traded government property on the black market for grain. Someone like you doesn't deserve to be in college. You don't deserve an award. You should be arrested." The auditorium fell silent. All eyes turned to me. Ethan's smirk widened as he added, "Grace, I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it." Still, I remained silent, my gaze steady on his. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "If you agree to get back together with me and take care of me for the rest of my life, I'll pin all the blame on Amanda." I glanced at Amanda, who stood not far behind him. Her expression twisted with both anxiety and venom. Smiling faintly, I asked, "And if I don't agree?" Ethan's face darkened instantly. "Aren't you afraid of the punishment you'll face?" I arched an eyebrow, and he glanced nervously at the school administrator standing behind me. Confusion clouded his face when none of them reacted to his accusations. "The school is already aware of Grace's involvement with the black market," the university president said coldly. "In fact, she used her black market resources to save the lives of countless people, including both of you. Her actions were commendable, not criminal." Ethan and Amanda stared at the president in disbelief. Their attempt to disgrace me had backfired spectacularly. During the 3-year natural disaster, our village had run out of food. The educated youth, along with the elderly, the sick, and the disabled, were on the brink of death. By chance, I had connections with traders on the black market who had meat and grain but lacked certain supplies. I coordinated with the village head to exchange goods for food. The village head, wary of chaos breaking out if everyone flocked to the black market, sought approval from the county leadership. Only after receiving formal authorization did we proceed with the trades. Although the transactions were technically legal, they remained a sensitive subject, and the county leadership ordered us to keep them confidential. As for Ethan, he had caused trouble during my 4th visit to the black market, angering the Mongolian traders. I was negotiating with the Mongolian trader when he threw Ethan onto a horse and taught him a lesson right there at the black market. I happened to pass by and, pretending to be his fiancée, managed to save him from the situation. That incident was also when I injured myself, leading to the absence of proof on my wedding night. It was also the moment the village had decided we should marry. After we were married, I had planned to eventually tell him the truth about the black market trades once we got approval from the county leadership. But in both lives, he used that incident to threaten me instead. Now, Ethan would never have the chance to hold it over me again. This time, he and Amanda disrupted the university and were reported to the authorities. The school leaders sent them to the police station, and from there they faced justice. By the time I heard about it, they had already been sentenced to prison. John Yerger told me that Amanda had thrown a tantrum in jail, demanding to see me. "Do you want to see how pathetic she looks?" he asked. I declined. "My time is valuable." I don't want to waste it on them. Following my refusal, Amanda reportedly hit her head against the wall, leaving herself mentally impaired. As for Ethan, he broke more rules during his labor reform sentence, earning himself additional penalties before being transferred to another prison. He wrote me a letter. I calmly looked at the envelope, didn't even open it, and tossed it straight into the trash. John, ever considerate, took out the trash for me. Holding my hand, he asked, "Grace, after you graduate, will you come work at my unit?" I laughed. "Just your unit?" He smiled softly. "Besides needing a researcher, my family also needs a mistress of the house. Would you be willing to become my leader?" I nodded. "If you can tell me what color blouse I was wearing on the train in my past life, I'll agree." He paused for a moment, then his smile deepened. It was a light yellow blouse. I threw my arms around him, feeling completely content. "Thank you, John Yerger. Thank you for saving me." The moment I was reborn, extra perspective. John Jagger's memories. John Yerger once told me, "Grace, I've lived through 3 rebirths. The first time I met Grace during my rural mission. Just one look at her and I knew I could never live without her. But she was determined to go to the city and confront Ethan and Amanda. I escorted her all the way, only to watch her die in the icy river, her eyes never closing in peace. I vowed to myself that if I were ever reborn, I would find her and help her reunite with her real family before it was too late." The second time I was reborn, I realized Grace had also been reborn. She was searching for me just as I was searching for her. I paved the way for her revenge. When she wanted to attend Qing Bei University, I contacted her former teacher to help her pick her favorite major. When she sought revenge against Ethan, I took leave to explain the situation to her biological parents and bring them to the village. Seeing the smile on her face after achieving her revenge brought me immense joy. I felt that my second rebirth was fulfilled through her happiness. The third time I was reborn, I found myself back at the age of 5. I was eager to meet Grace and begged my parents to take me to the village, but my mother scolded me, pulling my ear and warning me not to make noise in the hospital because my sister Grace had just been born and mustn't be disturbed. Hearing her words, I rushed to the nursery overjoyed, looking at the tiny, delicate baby in the crib. I smiled. In our past life, Grace had been taken from the hospital and separated from her biological parents. This time, I cradled her in my arms, silently swearing that no one would ever take my future wife away from me again.